So hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name again is Carol Bessel. I'm the section head for translational programs in the TIP Directorate. So it's the Directorate for Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships. And NSF has been around since the 1950s. And so 7 decades of innovations. And, it's an amazing experience. NSF is the only federal agency that invests in research across every field of science and technology. And so, this is just a slide of some of NSF's innovations, everything from the development of the internet to 3D printing, the first images of the black hole, that was only a couple years ago, rapid COVID testing, that was from my division. We developed the first home COVID test kits during the pandemic. Climate forecasting, I think people probably remember the LIGO gravitational waves being developed. Artificial intelligence, we do a lot of educational programs like the Magic School Bus. And so if you ever visit NSF on one of these panels, you'll see there's an entire wall mural devoted to all of NSF's inventions. So 75 years of investment, and NSF's returns for the US public are everywhere. So NSF has a mission, and again, this was developed in the 1950s, to promote the progress of science, to advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, and to secure the national defense. So health, wealth, and stealth. And so what we're really dedicated to is, making sure that the United States remains globally competitive, that we secure health, meaning agriculture, meaning biotech inventions, meaning, food security, all of that, clean water for the US population and for the world, and then obviously to secure the national defense. So NSF was developed right after World War II, when people were really thinking about converting nitrogen to ammonia, to urea, to fertilizers, to explosives, and all of that launched, the ability for the population to increase, for us to really think about the space, to talk about, plastics and polymers and things like that. And so NSF was key to all of those. And we would like to make sure that we stay at the forefront of economic prosperity, national security, global leadership. So many of you have probably heard about the CHIPS and Science Act, which was passed with bipartisan support and enacted in 2022. And that's really one of the things that launched the TIP Directorate. So we're only been around for about 2.5 years, and we're the first directorate that NSF has produced in nearly 30 years, a little bit over 30 years. There's some seats up front if you want. I won't bite, I promise. So NSF has 3 strategic priorities. And these strategic priorities are strengthening the established NSF. So even while we promote the establishment of the new TIP Directorate, we want to make sure that all of the directorates at NSF are strong and vibrant, and that they are all pushing the frontiers of knowledge and technology. We want to inspire people who have probably less access to science and engineering, and make sure that they can participate in a very well educated society. So we want to inspire the missing millions, and we want to accelerate technology and innovation. So usually it can be 20 years or more between something that's invented in a lab and actually used, in society. We want to shorten that as much as possible and move with speed and scale. And so these are our ideas to expand the frontier, engage the missing millions, and move with speed and scale. So NSF, as I said, supports all areas of science and engineering, and we haven't really gone through any org charts, which has been a blessing, I think. But these are the directorates that NSF has. And then we have integrative activities, those are the expert programs and the science and technology centers, to name a few. We have international science and engineering that are these what we call cross-cutting or horizontal programs. And now with the TIP Directorate, we're hoping to add another cross-cutting program. So TIP will accept proposals in any area of science and engineering that NSF promotes. So it's almost anything. We're looking for your contributions. So let's think about it. The landscape for science and engineering here in 2024 is really changing. The problems of global competition are getting more fierce. China now outranks the United States in terms of publications and patents. And so we need to kind of move along. One of the biggest frontiers is in semiconductors, and we are really looking forward to, promoting that effort so that we can, have advanced communications, biotechnology, computer science, and things like that. We're also looking at socioeconomic challenges. We have people on the coast, the haves, and then the have-nots, perhaps, in the rural areas. And we want to make sure that since innovation comes from everywhere, that we are able to promote that people can do science and engineering everywhere. So it's a really defining moment to be able to build bridges between the discovery, innovation, and commercialization. Okay. So let's keep thinking. It's a pivotal moment in the nation and society. The challenges, it might have been nice a few years ago to develop the television and things like that, but now the challenges are gigantic. We have climate change, which is producing all kinds of effects throughout the world. We really do need equitable access to education and healthcare. Again, a global problem, but certainly one in the United States as well. Critical and resilient infrastructure. We need buildings, bridges. If you've been near Baltimore, you know that that's a challenge lately. Roads, we're going to go to space. And so all of these things are gigantic challenges, very expensive ones that take a lot of thought to accomplish. So science and engineering is also changing quite a bit as well. The pace of discovery is really changing with computational methods. So because we can accelerate data, calculations, storage, use, we can do new things that we have never been able to do. So more predictive activities, more AI, more robotics. The demand for social and economic impact is always there. Again, we want to sell our products in markets. We don't want to import more than we export, and the opportunity to leverage partnerships. And so this is kind of a new way of doing science. People always had collaborators and things like that, but can you do it on a bigger and bigger scale, more a regional scale or a national scale? So TIP is really devoted to going across all of the directorates and helping, again, improve the technology, innovation, and partnerships. So our mission is to harness the nation's vast and diverse talent pool to advance critical and emerging technologies, advance pressing societal and economic challenges, and accelerate the translation of research results from the lab to market. So again, we're looking to improve U.S. competitiveness, grow the economy, train the workforce for future high-paying jobs. And so many of you have seen this diagram many, many times before, but NSF is really trying to be a good steward of taxpayer dollars. Whenever we make an investment in a proposal or a project, we are, giving money, basically taxpayer money, your taxes, for free to this group that we hope will do something really good for the rest of society. And so we'd like to see that have an impact on, private funding. So, not only is your lab going to benefit, but maybe your students will also benefit, and then the community will benefit, their kids will benefit, and we want to see just how large that impact can be. Well, the valley of death between the use of public funds and private funds, again, right now is about 20 years, can be more, for drug development and things like that. We'd like to see that narrow. And so what we're doing is looking at the bottom and seeing how we can move from step to step as quickly as possible. So foundational research, certainly NSF is really famous for that, basic research. We're talking now a lot about use-inspired. So if you do some research, your broader impact might be, what could you use this for? Start thinking of that. And then from there, go to proof of concept. So maybe you made a catalyst, you tested the catalyst, you proved that it could make a new plastic that degrades in the certain, conditions, maybe sunlight. You make a prototype, then go to bigger production, commercialization scale, and then actually make a national and societal impact. So many of the projects that we support in TIP are doing this, day by day, and you can drop in at any point on that line. Sometimes you take a step forward, sometimes it's a step back, but we're pushing everyone from foundational research to the national and societal impact. So building the bridges. So there's three kind of types of programs that TIP is using at the moment. And nobody has started the clock. You'll let me know? Thank you. So three types of projects. We're going to talk about diverse, innovative ecosystems, technology, translation and development, and workforce development. We'll try to start in the middle. So I'm going to give you just like a taste of some of the programs that TIP has either continued since our inception or started. And, please feel free to jump up and ask questions. This room is getting crowded, but I'm, more than happy to speak to what you want to hear about more than just speaking to you about a lot of programs. So the first program we have that we think is a really easy entry to thinking about use-inspired research and commercialization is the I-Core program, the Innovation Core. And what it is, it's a 7-week program that gives a team of 3, usually a faculty member, a student, and some kind of tech transfer mentor or industrial mentor, 7 weeks to really think about who their customer might be. So if you have something that you think, hey, I made a new something in the lab, and I'd like to see if anybody could use it, this is a time-tested, over a decade of potential startup companies that have gone through this process. And so it's just a wonderful experience. It's building teams and networks, because the first step in commercializing anything is developing a product that people want to buy. So if you want to fail in business, try to sell something that nobody wants. The I-Core program will help you decide who's your customer, what would you sell it for, why would people want to buy it, what is your competitive advantage. And so this is an easy entry into thinking a little bit differently. And, at the end of this, you can either have a go, like, hey, we're going to make this, we're going to try to make a startup company that commercializes this. You can have a no. It's definitely not for us. There's like 3,000 of these on the market. We're not competitive. Or you can have some kind of pivot. Like, I thought it was going to be great for the biological field, but it turns out it's great for computer science or something else. So I-Core is a terrific program to do that. Let's see. So the next program, sometimes people aren't ready to quite jump into I-Core. It needs a little bit of convincing for most folks in academics. So we have what's called now the Jumpstart Academy, which is to give you training before I-Core. So it's really just how to think about use-inspired research. And the next step's accelerators. So once you go through I-Core, you'll be able to have that go, no-go pivot, but then they'll start talking to you about licensing and patenting and kind of doing the more advanced business models so that you're ready for commercialization. This has been my home for the past few years. It's America's Seed Fund. So believe it or not, NSF started the startup and small business in the government. So for 40 years, NSF has had the Small Business Innovation Research, Small Business Technology Small Business Technology Transfer, SBIR, STTR programs. And this is where if you, and you could be a company of one person, you can incorporate yesterday, it's fine with us. So you don't have to be very big or very old. But if you have an idea for a science or technology-based company, startup, we will give you up to $2 million to actually, in phase one, kind of prove your technology, and then in phase two, work on commercialization. This is equity-free, meaning that you don't have to pay us back. You owe the government nothing. When you're finished, good or bad, we're making an investment in you. There is no ownership. The NSF does not own the IP rights. There's BIDO clauses, but basically, you own your own IP and you're free to do what you want with your company's work. We've had tremendous successes with this. As again, some of the examples, we've had the first home COVID test kits, that was NSF. We've had artificial aging, we've seen on all the milk cartons. That was a graduate student program from Carnegie Mellon. She learned how to, artificially age or computer age people so that they could be tracked for sex trafficking. That was her project for her graduate studies. And I can go on and on, artificial meats, all kinds of proteins, everything you can think of, anything that has a science and technology background. So if you're thinking about it, please do look us up. And then there's some new things. So, I-Core is maybe 10 years old, SBIR is 40 years old. There's pathways to enable open source ecosystems. So this is 1 year old. It's a new program that really supports open source. So you might have, for example, a piece of code that many people can work forward to the development of this code, and then many other people can use the code. And so it's a freely usable system in which not only can you use software, but it could be hardware, it could be other types of products. And it's just a way of kind of expanding who can contribute to and who can use any particular product. I forgot to mention, but on each of these slides, there is a date for the next competition. You can see that many of them are in September. As I said before, we'll be spent out of our money around August, but we'll be looking for new proposals in September. So if you're interested in any of these, now is a great time to start contacting the program directors if you want to give them a concept outline and see if your proposal would be suitable for this or that program. Another technology translation and development program is the ART program, and this supports institutions of higher education to build capacity and infrastructure to think about translation. So if your university needs to strengthen its SRO, perhaps, work with other universities to do that. Learn again about licensing and patenting and accelerating research. These grants are up to $6 million over 4 years, and the deadline is in September. So those are technology translation and development programs. Again, I'm just giving you a smattering of these. We have quite a lot, and I'll show you at the end how many programs TIP has developed in the last 2 years. But I'll move right now to workforce development. And that includes the Excellent program. So it's experiential learning for emerging and novel technologies. So now we're really thinking about the 10 core technologies that are listed in Chips and Science: AI, climate change, biotechnology, quantum. You can probably imagine what they are. We're looking to promote partnerships between organizations that are looking at those emerging technology fields. And so again, funding here is $6 million over 4 years. We're trying to expand the practical learning opportunities so that people can enter and gain experience in these specific fields. The Entrepreneurial Fellows, we also call this the Activate program. It's a program for postdoctoral fellows generally. These are folks who are selected for 2 years of kind of fellowship training. They are selected so that they can develop their technology into their own company. And so they give you a lot of kind of hand-holding, how to get your customer, how to develop your product, how to source your resources, how to, go for commercialization. So it's $350,000 for direct support, and then you can actually access research facilities and equipment. So applications for that cohort are open September 4th. It's a great opportunity if you're interested in getting your students, specific students engaged in working for entrepreneurship, towards entrepreneurship. So, as I said, we had 3. We'll talk about the last tenant, the diverse innovation ecosystems, and this has gotten a lot of attention in the last few years. So this is the Convergence Accelerator. So this was developed a bit before TIP was actually established. There's 2 phases. The first for 9 months, again, planning grants are to help you develop larger programs, get the collaborators, get the ideas kind of solidified, and then phase 2, the actual implementation. Convergence Accelerator is really, the key there is the transdisciplinary research teams, and they really want to stimulate innovation. They will work with almost any kind of team. So you could be an institution of higher education, you could be a nonprofit, you could be a for-profit, you could be a federal government, FFRDC. So this has a very different, unique profile in terms of who can apply to this. And it really is to converge different areas of science and engineering into solving some problems. And each year or 2, they select a new track. And so this is hard to catch up with, and I hope you can read all of these. So they've gone from track A to track N, and they select a certain number of tracks each year to focus on. So you can see they started off with things like open knowledge networks, AI and the future of work, quantum technology, and now they're moving on to equitable water solutions and real-world chemical sensing applications. You have the opportunity to weigh in on what the next track should be. So please look for those kind of advertisements. If you have an idea that you'd like to see get funded, weigh in early so we can help, craft the track, and then we can go forward from there into getting some funded projects. And again, all of these are very interdisciplinary. It's not just the chemists or the biologists working by themselves, but it's forming groups that really work together to solve some of these really big problems. The regional innovation engines, or NSF engines, is probably the biggest splash this year for TIP. Little bug. They're funded up to $160 million for up to 10 years. So these are big projects. And it is one way that we can develop diverse regional coalitions. So this is the partnership part of TIP. We really want to look at, what might be in your particular area. So as you know, Boston, very famous for biotech. San Francisco, more for computer science and things like that. So we want to see, places not on either coast necessarily, but all across the United States, what's special about each region, whether it's agriculture or clean water or whatever it is, and make, partnerships between the local government, the universities, the industry, to see, what is special there and what can drive the economy, create new jobs. So this is a little map, and these are available. There was a question in the earlier session about how do you know what's got funded and stuff like that. There are quite a few maps such as these where we can actually say, these are the topics that got funded. Some sustainable energy. I can't read it from here. Let's see. Can't read from there either. Okay, so you can read it all the way down to food security, but you can see it's really spread out throughout all of the United States, and we're doing our best to try to get, not one place or another funded to the expense of others. We're trying to spread out investments so that we're all engaged. Everyone in the United States is engaged in science and engineering for innovation. And then the last thing I think I will talk to you about today is the EPIC program, Enhancing Partnerships to Increase Innovation Capacity. And so in order to make sure people are ready for the Engines program, this provides training and networking support so that we can have more inclusive innovation ecosystem. So you could think about these as planning grants up to $400,000 for over 3 years to get ready to talk about what's special in your region. So this little history of TIP, you can see we've been very, very busy in the last 2 years. We've had a lot of new programs, everything from the establishment of TIP in March 16th, 2022 to the current day. You can see we're really trying to develop new programs. And so here's the one time I've never really said this to a community, but we value your input. And we'd really like to know what you think is missing from that, valley of death. What would help you to take something out of your lab and push it into the commercial marketplace? So if you have ideas, we'd like to hear from you. So please feel free to send me an email, maybe not this afternoon, but tomorrow. We would really like to hear new ideas for different pilot programs and things like that. Where do you think the gaps are? Because we're slowly, filling up what we think are the, places where we're lacking, but we're always looking for new ideas because we want to work at speed and scale. We are one of the few directorates that work not only with academic groups, but with business and industry, with other government agencies, for nonprofits, for profits. And you can see that there's a huge number of opportunities for everyone, I hope, to participate. And so this is the TIP website, newnsf.gov, TIP/latest. So you can find out about all of the deadlines and programs that we're pushing out. There's probably 3 or 4 webinars a week. If you really wanted to attend webinars to listen to new programs, you're always welcome to do that. We're very excited about, pushing really hard, to make ourselves competitive, to make our country secure, and to make sure that we're ready for the next, 75 years. So one thing that hasn't been mentioned, I thought I would throw one more in. This is the CHIPS and Science Act. So TIP was authorized as part of CHIPS and Science. So you can always read the legislation. If you want to know what NSF is going to be doing in the future, this is public information. You can see that, all of these things are on our to-do list given to us by bipartisan congressional support. But there are a few things that we haven't done yet. So please look for those. And they might be highlighted in yellow, just to have you know what's coming up and what I'm really excited about. So please look forward to those. And again, you can see some of them are completed, some things are ongoing, some things are subject to scaling. Obviously, everything's subject to budget, but that's where we're looking for. Translational accelerators and test beds would be a very good opportunity for us in the future. So hopefully you have any questions I can answer. I really appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
If you do have questions, I'd ask that you come to use the microphone so that everybody online can hear as well.
Hi.
Hi, can you speak to how a region are in the regional innovation grant, large grant? Can you speak
I'm sorry.
Can you speak to how a region, region is defined with the innovation, regional innovation hub?
Yes, can I speak to how a region is defined for a regional innovation hub?
So is it like Philadelphia or greater tri-state area or Northeast? How's it?
Oh, so that's completely your definition, right? Like, we're not defining what a region is. And so, sometimes it's a city, could be, or, the tri-state area, but I mean, it could be several states, depending on, what the innovation is that you want to promote. So yeah, it's the user's definition. Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Because the Excellent is such an excellent program,
Mm-hmm.
will there be a round 2?
Yes, I would anticipate it is. I can't promise anything, but, I think we also think it's an excellent is excellent. And yeah, I would think we would like to do that again. Sure.
Okay, so really no promises as far as,
Not yet.
not yet.
Yeah, I think they're also really trying to look at the learnings from it and see, is there a way of improving the program, making sure other people can participate. So I think once we can do a little assessment ourselves, there may be tweaks, but it probably will go again.
And if so, I know it's early in the process, but with the thought of if former awardees could reapply for programs.
So that I am not in the loop to know about that. If former awardees would be able to apply, there may be additional stages and things like that. And so it's certainly something that you could contact your program officer about and make sure that they hear that suggestion, because we are open to suggestion. And again, I'm not sure I can make any promises, but it's always good to give feedback.
I was just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
To kind of say,
Mhm.
yeah, we're interested.
Perfect. That's great. Yeah. And I don't think that mic is on, or at least I don't hear it. Maybe you do. No. Can you try to turn it on? Oh, you've got it now? Yeah, now it is. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so my question was on the America's Seed Fund, the SBR, STTR. I know you said that the NSF does not take equity share in this spin-off startup, but my question was, so if a researcher at a university or academic institution wanted to commercialize their research, and there's an existing, like say, patent filed by their institution, does the NSF get involved with how that works with the startup founder and the institution, or is that between them?
Yeah, we do not get involved in the licensing. So you would have to kind of license that technology from the university and kind of pay them back.
I see.
We don't get involved in that, but if you can make that negotiation, then we'll take your company. And again, NSF is very unique in all of the federal government for our SBIR, STTR program. We fund the youngest, the smallest, and the most high risk. So, we hope you come to us absolutely the first day you incorporate, and then you can go to DOD and NIH and everybody else afterwards. But it's a great opportunity. I think from everything I've heard, students and postdocs are very, very eager, especially after COVID, to be their own boss. This is one way you can do that. It's more difficult for the faculty member to be the CEO of the company, but I've heard it's relatively easy to get a graduate student or postdoc to spin off their research and go start a startup and then get the faculty member to participate. The STTR mechanism actually must have an academic collaborator, or at least a research collaborator, and they can go up to 40% of the budget. So it makes it a nice way of, perhaps keeping that faculty engaged. Maybe there's specialized equipment or something that you would need, and still work on the startup. So I hope that's something to think about.
Yeah, that was really helpful information. And for the STTR, just a follow-up question. If you are, say, an early career faculty, not yet assistant professor, but not past the postdoc stage, and you want to get involved in the STTR, can you simultaneously be the academic point person and run the startup, or would you have to have two separate roles for that?
To be the PI on the startup, you have to spend 52%, I believe it's 52% of your time. And so you probably wouldn't have that academic faculty role because now you're giving up your faculty appointment. But you could be the person or the group that they collaborate with from the academic group. So you would be the minority partner, not the majority partner. Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah, perfect sense. And just another question on another program, the Pathways to Enable Open Source. ecosystems. So for that program, is there a commercializable like outcome at the end of that, or is it just to create the open source ecosystem?
Let's see. I'm not sure that I know of any. So it's a fairly new program. I don't think we've had any commercial successes. I'd love to phone a friend if you could get either Peter or Jeff on the line. Okay, great. They will answer. I do have a couple people on standby. Thanks for them, and maybe they can chime in. So if you want to hold on for just a second, I'll take another question, and maybe they can let me know what they say.
So we do have another question online, and the question is, if my research is on the impacts of technology on society rather than the development of technology itself, is TIP the best place to target my proposal? And if not, where would you recommend?
Yeah, I think TIP would be a great place. Obviously like to hear a little more about the idea, but we consider quite a large range of activities. So yeah, sure.
Hi, so for the Convergence Accelerator program, can you comment on the lessons learned from this program and how it can how it differentiates and also can act synergistically with the growing convergence research program?
So say that one more time, because that was a big question.
All right, so for the Convergence Accelerator program, so there's two questions. One is the lessons learned from this program, which was even before TIP was created.
Yep.
I participated in that one a few years ago, and how it differs from the growing convergence research program, and also how it can work maybe synergistically with it.
Okay, so for the lessons learned, I think it's an older program, but it's not that old. So I think some of the initial awards are really just finishing up. And so there's lessons for me. Maybe they're not universal lessons, but I think that is a very unique program because it really takes people who speak kind of different languages and makes them work together. So an example might be, the chemists and the biologists making biochemistry is very different in different language, different tools, different, things that they're looking for. And so that's what they're really striving for. But I think it's groundbreaking in terms of NSF programs because it brings together different types of groups. So usually it's, an academic award or something like that, but they're bringing in nonprofits and for-profits and things like that. And so each award is treated like as an individual, and they have a lot of interaction with their program officer and program team. And so, we'd have to kind of go through each award kind of separately. So each one has done something very, very different. Not only are there so many topics, but there's very different approaches about, how they've spun out their outcomes, whether, some do licensing, others do company formation, others do, nonprofit startups and stuff like that. And so I think the lessons learned is that we are working towards speed and scale, but these are kind of unique activities, and we're learning with each one, what the particular needs are in that, ecosystem. Growing convergence research, I'm not sure I'm the best person to compare and contrast. I'm sorry for that. But yeah, I think that's another kind of fairly new program, so I'm not sure we know all that we will.
I have a feeling that maybe Convergence Accelerator, I guess the growing convergence research, it's probably more focused on academia, and the Convergence Accelerator has more possibilities to integrate all the stakeholders maybe, but I'm not sure about the...
Right, exactly, yeah. So they use the BAA mechanism. It's very different, and just the way they're funding it, it's just the things that you can do. And so I look forward to both of them, like continuing to develop and see how they work together. Yep. So thank you for that question. Did we get an answer? No? Oh, okay. Well, I'll get back to you.
That may require an email.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you do send me, my email is cbessel, CBESSEL @nsf.gov. I'm sure you can find that somewhere, but sorry about that. Any other questions? Yep.
Hi, I've got a question regarding kind of the TRL level of the technologies that TIP is interested in. So my understanding is that TIP's probably interested in like 3 through 6, really where that valley of death occurs. Is there funding mechanisms for TRL 1 and 2?
So 1 and 2 would probably be the basic science that we're already funding across the majority of the directorates and divisions. So
Okay, so not necessarily TIP.
right,
Okay.
right. Not necessarily TIP, sorry. That's right. At NSF for sure, but probably we want to take you a little bit beyond that, right? Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
I have 2 questions. The first one is for the engine. The last solicitation, you will have a planning grant and a large engine grant, and this time only have the large one, no planning grant, right? Is the EPIC the substitute for the planning for the engine?
I'm sorry, for which
For
solicitation?
the engine. For the engine.
Oh, for the engines.
Yeah, so before you have the planning grant and the large one, that 160. At this solicitation, you only have the larger
I
engine.
think they're waiting for the kind of the planning grants to be over. Isn't that true? Oh, sorry. I think the planning grants are, up to 2 years. So they're probably waiting for that first group of
Okay,
plans to mature so that they can compete in the implementation.
okay.
So they'll probably do it again, but these are still maturing into their full implementation grants.
And the second one is, if you give a definition to use in Inspire, what will be the definition?
Difficult, right? Yeah. So use inspired, to me, means, so I'm a chemist by training,
Yeah.
and I always studied catalysis. So it was pretty easy to see what was use inspired. So we would think about photocatalysis, and then the use would be to mimic artificial photosynthesis and to develop solar panels and, to use renewable energy. So I could make that path, a broad sweep, all the way to use inspired. And so I could think about, what does a leaf do and how does it capture sunlight and convert it to different forms of energy and move that energy around. So for a chemist, it's probably fairly easy, but so take another area, you could think about quantum tunneling and things like that. And how do you make that into a quantum computer, which then, can process, it can be a computer powered by light, basically, right? And how fast it can go and have impacts on cybersecurity and health, and modeling and climate change and things like that. And so I think what you're thinking about is, how could you use what you've just developed in society? It doesn't have to be a, one-step process. It could be many more things, but you do have an idea that it might help somebody somewhere. And that's, a lot of this is really broader impacts that NSF has actually been asking people to do forever, right? So now we're asking you to really elaborate and now put, giving you some money to do that pathway. So hopefully people are ready for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Carol, I have an answer.
Oh, you do?
To
Great.
the question about pose.
Please.
And it is the outcome is expected to be a sustainable managing organization that will nurture the ecosystem. Pose is an alternative to the traditional commercialization path.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Can I say it again?
Yes, please.
Okay. Pose, the outcome is expected to be a sustainable managing organization that will nurture the ecosystem. Pose is an alternative to the traditional commercialization path.
I think the question was, is it for profit or nonprofit? And it's just perhaps either one. I'm not sure they answered actually that question. I'm not sure. Anyway, sir.
Yes, thank you. SCI supports AI. AI is broadly applicable, including healthcare. So if you're talking about translation, you're talking about from research to bedside. So where does TIP draw the line between what's outside their scope and it should be handled by NIH instead of applying AI towards healthcare-related type of work?
So we have very few boundaries. We do a lot of medical devices in the SBIR program. We do a lot of I don't think there's much that it's outside the scope. Right now, we're not funding anything with Schedule I drugs. You can imagine what ones I'm talking about, soon to be Schedule III perhaps, but right now they're Schedule I. Other than that, we're really interested in almost anything you can propose.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I have another question from online. To submit a proposal for software development and commercialization, which program would be the best one to apply to?
Software development depends kind of on where the development is. If you have, sorry, there's a little bug. If you already have kind of a software product, then you're very welcome to come into, I-Core to see who your customers would be. We have a current project called Partnerships for Innovation. You could come in that way to build a prototype. You could do the SBIR program to launch a company. But if you're kind of still in the developing stage, then you're better off in SCI's or another directorate. So it kind of depends on where you are. I'll need a little bit more information.
Getting back to more on POSE.
Yes, please. I'm ready.
It is open to for-profits, nonprofits, institutions of higher education, and certain state and local government organizations.
So everyone.
Everyone.
Pretty much. Excellent. Any other questions? Any other feedback of any kind? I'm ready to hear your ideas. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.